Hi there. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast. I'm your host, Kathleen Galatly, and I'm super excited to have you join us. In these episodes, we're going to have some heart-to-heart conversations with experts, everyday wellness enthusiasts, and, well, anyone with a story to share about their journey towards a more balanced and harmonious life. Welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast, where well-being meets wisdom, and the journey is just as important as the destination. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Aligned Living Podcast with me, your host, Kathleen Galatly. It's lovely to have you here. If this is your first time watching us on YouTube or maybe listening to this on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. Today is episode 15. I was so excited to get into the double digits, and now we're like flowing through them like 1 week at a time, which has been so exciting. Episode 15 today is with the beautiful Olivia Krouwkam, and got connected together through Josie, who some of you might know, who works in the Aligned Living team, and she introduced us. So again, we've got this thing about technology, but I have found, especially in the last 3 years, that technology and Instagram as a social media platform has given me the biggest gifts of connections that I could, like, people I would never have crossed paths with, who I'm now like, people who I reached out to do the podcast that I didn't know, and now we're like messaging each other in the week going like, thinking of you, sister, how are you doing? Like, it's just amazing. So feel super, super blessed to have you here, and I'm so excited for you to share your like massive wall of knowledge. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your time. And I'm going to hand over to you now, Olivia, and I'd love for you to maybe just introduce yourself. I always like to start with you maybe sharing a little bit of your upbringing, where you're from, and also perhaps growing up as a child or as a young woman, if there are maybe moments in your journey that you remember, that like those little aha or awakening moments, anything that comes to mind that's kind of been the path and the journey leading you up to where you are now.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Kathleen. Okay, where did my journey start? So I was born in a little town called Worcester, a very Afrikaans, klein dorpie. And in a sweet way, also conservative, but connected to nature and close to the mountains, and a little bit salt of the earth vibe, which, now later in my life, being closer to town, I actually really appreciate, like having had the space to grow up in less pretentiousness and chasing, and just a slower lifestyle. So grew up with parents who were quite hippie, in the sense where my mother's an artist and my dad is like, very liberal in his thinking, but conservative and strict, due to their upbringing and just the time where they grew up in. And your question around when did I start seeing, or when did I start feeling, or any kind of remembrance when I was a child, the first thing that comes up is actually like quite a deep sadness around the fact that I was on the pill from the age of 15, and really, really actually knowing and noticing what a big of a shutdown that caused in my body, and a numbing and a disconnected to like sexual essence and power. Which took me on a path of, actually, I don't want to call it like a masculine path per se in the positive sense, but a very linear, put your head down, work, don't feel so much, path for quite a time, until my body had to crash down and tell me that's fucking enough. And I had to do a quick turnaround. So I actually think my big awakening and listening, actually started a bit later, when I was in my early 20s, and my body was screaming at me to say, this is actually not the life that your being wants to live. So before that, it was like very much overachieving, going for the goals, doing it right, doing what people think I should be doing. And yes, having fun obviously also on the way, but yeah, only really I would say I kind
Ooh. Nice.
this is what it feels like to be in a
Goodness.
connected here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, babes. We lost you there for a moment.
Problem.
I'm going to, I think let's just head on what really interested me as well when I first met you, when we had our first conversation before the podcast, because I was obviously attracted to the person that Josie introduced me to, who is doing women's work and tantra and yoga and all those things. And when we actually got talking, you were like, nope, I was a lawyer. I worked in the law. And that fascinates me. And when you say, like, it's so interesting that something like going on the pill was potentially the catalyst to send you on that more masculine, more linear journey in your life and to go into that profession. And I would love for you to share a little bit of insight into kind of how you ended up in law, what it was like working. I know you spoke a bit as well as to what it's like being in a woman's body in a courtroom, and that perspective. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yes. So, thinking back now about what the pill did to my body was, really a deep disconnect. And I was, taking me into the realm of the mind so much, I can focus for long hours and really just developing that side of me, which is not my intuitive side, not my deep feeling side, very disconnected from emotions, very driven by success. So in the beginning, being in the courtroom was easy, while being on the pill, because I didn't have to worry about, I would just drink painkillers when I was bleeding. And I would just, even the gynecologist would be like, we could just change up your pill so you don't even have the fake bleed. So all that inconvenience can be gone, to the point where actually I had a burst cyst while in the middle of a trial. And didn't even bother to stop the trial. Like, went to the bathroom, had some pain, took some CBD oil, and went back. That's the level of in a tight suit, in high heels, air conditioned room. I'm the only woman in the room. And that's the life I lived, thinking that yes, this is what a successful woman does. And it's, the funny thing about this, at this time I was a yoga teacher. I was doing yoga teacher training, but I was coming at spirituality still from this like achieving, doing, another thing to put on my CV. That's still where it came from. Energy. And it was only really when my journey, I mean, these are just words I'm using now looking back, of going into the feminine body, was when I went off the pole and I connected to this, my friend, Russian friend, and we started our first women's circle. We didn't know what women's circles were 10 years ago. We just sat together and said, hey, let's come together when the moon is out once a month and just connect and talk. And that's where the unfolding started. And then I would call that sexual awakening, because it was this awakening to being in the body, really. And when I was in my body, I could feel like, fuck, I'm actually doing something I don't really want to do. I'm on the wrong path. This is not the path where I'm supposed to be. Then I started becoming more in touch with my intuition, and I couldn't believe, oh my goodness, this is what it feels to love, to be in love, to have sex, to like, I felt like in terms of living, I was like at a 1 out of 10, but I didn't even know, how much life could flow through my body just because. I didn't have to achieve, I didn't have to be successful, just at the mere fact of loving. It would be so wonderful. And yeah, so going completely from that world, 100% immersed in that reality, and then really having to feel the pain of being in that reality and how ill-suited it is for someone who's connected to their body, and then desperately wanting to change that from the inside. Like I wanted to change the legal system, and I just realized, no, this, nothing's working here. I actually need to eject myself completely and do what I love. And then, when the veils start falling, you can hear properly, you can hear the calling, the guidance is clear. It's not such a difficult thing. What's my purpose? No, you just go to the next thing that you desire, and then you go to the next thing. It doesn't have to be such a big thing. It's just the listening and that raw, primal intuition that I connected to. So yeah, long story short, ended up in law, coming from I would say a good place, humanitarianism, wanting to understand humanity. I come from a family of lawyers, and then doing family law because I was curious about love and connection and heartbreak, because that's an interesting topic for me, and really wanting to understand conflict and how we connect as humans. And that taking me into mediation, because I wanted to find a better way for families to uncouple, tangle if there needs to be a change, transform. And that is also a big thing that took me on this journey. I mean, we also need to credit the mind there, that curiosity of wanting to know a better way. I was like, no, there must be, something feels off here. There must be a better way to deal with this societal big thing that we have, is families needing to untangle and find a new way, and love is uncoupling. And that curiosity, led me to start working with emotions and triggers, and then I found nonviolent communication, and just also feeling like, this is amazing, but something's also lacking. And that's where the yoga came in, with the body, and understanding that we can't just work all these processes through the mind, but that it has to also involve your body, which is your this is why we're here, is to experience life through this body.
It
Oh my
holds
goodness.
the entire experience of your entire lifetime.
It's like, it's
Yeah.
not consciousness in a body. It's like, it's one thing. Your body is consciousness. It's not. But anyway, and then through that, you're in that searching for in my immediate environment where I wanted something else, finding Tantra, finding my teacher, and really understanding meditation, going from the yogic meditation, which beautiful, but my body wasn't landing in it. I thought I was meditating for years, and then finding these meditation practices, which are, my words, a celebration of your embodiment, and not just sitting there and watching your mind. It's your whole body meditates. It's not just this part of you and the rest is a monkey. It's like, no, actually your whole being is part of the meditation. And I was like, now I get it. And that brought me, I think as I guess everyone's work is, who works in spirituality and with people, it's like, I work on myself, I find problems I don't like, and I go on a mission to change and to transform it. And then that becomes something that I can then share with someone else and be like, hey, I did that, so I can show you, or this is how I find it. And I just go where my mind is curious, and my mind is really curious about love and connection and sex and the body. And so that's where I go, and that's where I like to learn about.
Thank you so much. The so many avenues that we could take from that. But I wanted to pull up a quote from, I think, one of your Instagram posts, because I feel like it's such a relevant topic, is pain, and how, for me, how I've seen how that can be if it's so big in individuals, to try and nurture a relationship is almost impossible. And your quote says, "So this journey of healing pain is mostly calling back lost parts, releasing, befriending emotions, changing patterns, self-care, self-love, slowing down, and deep listening." And I'd love for you to perhaps share any reflections you have on those words, or just on the transmuting of pain in this very human life, which is quite this world which is quite filled with pain and suffering.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, okay, I've been on a big journey with pain. I think it's because I'm very stubborn, and because my personality type is very much, one of my flaws is that I endure. I endure a lot because my mind tells me that that's what a strong person does. It just, you man up and you do it. And, I've been working with pain in the body. I've had chronic pain for 2 years, to the point where it was like bedridden. And I've seen every single person in the world that you can literally imagine, like everything. I've done it all. And Western, holistic, shamanic, magic, plant medicine, it's all been done. And the piece that keeps on coming back is, it's disharmony. Pain is disharmony, that level of pain. It's like that doesn't, it's just showing you, hey, something's out. And if it's such big pain, it means something big is out. Something big is really out of line. And then we think it's like, oh, I need to change my job, or I need to do this. But actually, it's maybe a pattern that you are repeating every single day, in the smallest way. You are replaying, you are suppressing a part, a feeling, an emotion that that wants to be expressed, but you're pushing it down because of a belief that I have. And what happens to that push down thing? We think I always like to use this analogy, or this metaphor, of how we relate with garbage as humans. We think because we put it in the bin, it's gone. It's like it's still on the planet. It's like yes,
It's going to be there when your great grandchildren are alive. It'll probably
it's still there. It's still there, and do that a lot. It's like,
out of sight, out of mind, right? If
out
you
of
just
mind, yet the body's there. It's in the body.
Mm.
It's in the body. It's sitting there, and it's causing pain, and it's calling for your attention. And it's so hard because we've worked, however old you are, that's how many years you've worked on crafting this personality that you have to be like a safe human being in this world. And the personality actually just being a bunching together of coping mechanisms. It's like, but yet we hold so tightly onto them. And
Sure.
and pain is calling for shedding. It's like, hey, there's something that you're doing that's not okay. And my piece is, I have so much compassion for people who like, oh, but I'm going to take this pill, I'm going to buy the new bed, or I'm going to see this chiropractor, and then my pain is going to be resolved. Because I know it's so desperate. You just want to heal this thing, and you think it's like just an injury that needs to be fixed. But it's come to this point where we cannot ignore that we are creators. We are weaving the fabric of reality with our thoughts, with our mind, with our emotion, with everything, and that everything is connected to everything, and we cannot ignore that. And I'm so happy that doctors are finally speaking up. Sorry, I feel like I'm going on like a rant.
No, please go. I want to hear all of this.
The doctors are finally starting to speak about this. Gabor Mate is like, he's like, almost, I can see, feels like he's like, guys, we cannot, we cannot say that disease is not linked to our thoughts and our feelings. It's not even linked. It is the cause. It's not somehow linked. It's like, no, it is literally, it is the reason. And I think that's also why most of my work is going in the direction of healing our relationship to emotions, which is healing your relationship to yourself, right? Because it's like, It's just you're having an expression, and then we have so much judgment towards that expression that we push it down and go, no, 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 it's not cool to feel that way. It's not acceptable. It's not successful. It's not loving. So I'm not angry. I'm actually just annoyed, or I'm just frustrated. We make it lighter, and yet your being is wanting to express in its fullness. And this is very hard to do in a society that is really the success is really built on people pushing that down, because the less intact you are with your intuition and your power and your expression, the easier it is for you to follow rules and to do things that you don't really want to do, and to do that for hours on end, because Esther Perel says this. She says people who are sexually free and empowered cannot be controlled. They cannot. It's like, because you're so in touch with your body and what's alive. If something's off, you're going to do something about it.
Or you see the truth. You actually see things for what they really are, and people for who they really are.
Yes. And then
the people don't want you to see them,
And then I think a lot of people, what's happening now is a lot of people are seeing, they see the truth, but there's this hopelessness, which is causing a lot of depression. So there's no action being taken into, because there's no belief that you can create what you want. Right.
Yeah, that's also, it's so interesting. It's a conversation that I have quite a lot, and it just keeps coming up for me over and over again, is that, and I think I might have spoken to you about this as well, is that when your awareness increases, your tolerance for bullshit decreases. And that's your tolerance for other people's bullshit, but it's mostly your tolerance for your own bullshit. And so a lot of the time when people step onto this healing journey, it's so fucking cuck. It's so cuck, and it's so hard, because you're like, but I'm going to yoga, I'm drinking my green juice, I'm sleeping, I'm bathing, I'm taking long walks on the beach, I'm journaling, I'm doing all these things, but like everything's like falling apart. And I think like that's what will happen when you do step on this journey, is that they say it's a very lonely path, and you can lose the people that you love the most in your life when you start really getting on this journey, because you lose that tolerance for things that are just not in alignment with you. And it's I think a lot of people feel like it is like that attachment, and it's that letting go, and that it's that release, but also the guilt of like leaving people behind. And how do I allow myself to move forward, but without leaving people behind, kind of thing. Whereas you're not really leaving them behind, you're just leaving them on their own path. And wherever they are on that path is where they are. And wherever you go, you go. So it is really tricky. And I what you said now was so interesting, of when we start to wake up and see the world around us. I had like a total breakdown about 3 weeks ago, where I literally sat in a little bundle and cried. And I was just like, I don't want to be in a world where there's so much suffering. Like, it just like the empath in me that day was just like, oh God, like I can't, like, but it is just then allowing myself to lie there and cry and feel everything and go, but how do I step forward into that now? And like, how do I hold my own light, and how do I hold my own integrity and my own truth, and take that radical ownership of what is my legacy going to be that I leave behind. But it's daunting. It's daunting work, and it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah. And I want to add something to what you said around, the feeling around all the suffering in the world. And I hold quite a radical point of view when it comes to suffering in the world, because I'm like, you are only your perception. You only perceive your perception of reality, which is from your point of view, right? You are literally, what you see in the world is your projection. It's your subjective experience of what's alive there. So everything you're perceiving is you. It's like everything. So if there is suffering, it is your suffering. You know, if there is, it's not the suffering that's there. If it's, if there, you know, all this violence in the world, I believe is our unexpressed rage and hatred that we have, that we are suppressing. It's all our parts floating, all our denied parts floating out there. You know, when we start to, I mean, this is just how I see this. I'm not trying to preach or tell someone to believe this, but I just see it in my life. You know, when there's something that's really annoying me in my life that's coming through a person, it's like they are bringing me a part back that I have suppressed. And once I release the emotion and reincorporate that part, that thing disappears. I'm not saying the person dissolves in the cosmos.
That would be great sometimes.
That would
Sometimes
be amazing.
dissolving people would be much easier.
Yes, but the energy does, you know, that story finishes because it doesn't have a space anymore. It goes to like its rightful place. It's you don't have that hook on you anymore. Does that make sense? What I'm saying
Yeah.
is,
No, I mean we are our perception. That is, you know, whether that's through all the lenses that you have, through programming, through trauma, through ancestral work, through all of that you're perceiving the world is through this, everything that you are made up of. And so it does make sense to me that if I'm able to feel the suffering of what's going on over there, then does that make it their suffering or my suffering? Or is it actually just our suffering?
Yes, it's the suffering. It's actually, that's the thing. It's actually not my suffering. It's the suffering, the rising of the suffering. And this is what I love, you know, this topic of like whose is which and what is what, is this work really gets interesting in relationships, because I feel like that
let's go there.
really,
Let's go there. I would
yes.
actually, I'd love you to go into a little bit of your relationship work. Anything you feel called to share.
Yes, so this is for me the juice of relationships. And this is, you know, I thought I was really cool when I thought I coined the word yoga of relationships. And then I fell in love with Ramdas, and I saw he already coined it many, many years ago. So I was like, but loving this piece of how we can really see where we are stuck in being a somebody through relationships. Like relationships reflect back to us where we are really holding on to a story of who we are. You know, like so everywhere where I'm a frustration, or I have a strong feeling, or there's a big charge, is my relationship is reflecting to me something that I need to let go, integrate, process, whatever. And sure, you can be the most awakened monk on the top of the mountain, but there's no one there to trigger you, to show you where you are stuck, you know. So it's like, what do they say, like, if you think you're enlightened, go visit your family for a weekend and see what happens. Show you, you know, where all these parts of you, these missing parts of you, are still hiding, that you still need to integrate. And then people think relationship work, you know, you get the classical therapy where it's like, okay, we're gonna organize this relationship so that no one gets triggered and then everyone gets along nicely. But with the yoga of relationships, it's like, no, we don't want to not be triggered. We want to understand why we are triggered. We are noticing, we are knowing that you are bringing me a key. You're showing me that it's something in me that is unresolved. And then my work is to go and figure that out, and then the relationship will reflect back to me when it has been resolved. And you know, this work is work that I started with. I mean, the first people I practiced yoga of relationships were with my parents. Amazing. Because that is, you know, that is not that they were like, okay, Olivia, let's practice the yoga of relationships. No, I just noticed I was projecting my relationship with them onto my lovers and my best friends, and you know, like all of that, where I was projecting all these stories of pain and how people treat me, and you know, everyone always needs me, and and everyone's so needy, and like realizing that that's my story. That's my hurt, of something that happened in the past that's looking to be finished. There's a story that's looking to be finished, and then saying, oh, flip, I actually need to go and sit down, go and find the root cause. I mean, through the body. This is how the body work came to me. It's like your mind's not going to be the one to show you, because the mind is the one that put the pattern there in order to keep you safe. It puts the belief system in place. So you can't fight the mind with the mind. It's not going to work. It's actually through the body and going into that core memory in the body that will take you to the original place where something didn't finish. And then it's doing that work, with like, okay, actually, I have so much unprocessed feeling towards my parents, the poor parents that always get the blame. But it's just because the poor parents, they're great. But just, that first lesson of what love is, of what it means to love, comes from them. And it's like, no, Olivia, if you do that, then you will not be loved. And there I start editing myself. But you will be rewarded if you do this. Oh, okay, so love means if I do this, then it becomes so transactional.
Take a breather and explore the Aligned Living on-demand video library, along with our exclusive membership perks. Plus, our YouTube channel is already up and running, offering even more wellness content. Your path to holistic living is just one click away. Visit our website to learn more. And now, let's return to our inspiring discussion.
And this is how I build my image of love continuously through life, where I get acceptance. So when we get to relationships that we choose, which I think is hilarious that we think we choose relationships, because it's literally our chemistry of patterns chooses another one that fits in there so that we can undo these
I'm going to call this episode the truth bombs. That's what I'm going to call it, is multiple mic drops.
So I get so excited by this work, because relationships for me, it's like going into love university. It's like I'm coming here to undo all the lies of love that I have built up in my mind, the lies of what I believe it means to be an Olivia, and how I need to act and what I need to do in order to be acceptable, to receive love, to give love. Like, we are stepping in this together to say, actually, we as humanity actually know fuck all about love, and we're molding ourselves to be acceptable for each other. And we're going to go together on a journey to see how close we can come to the core of who we are, and we're going to help each other with that. That's like, also when people tell me, oh, self-love, I'm like, forget about self-love, let's just start with acceptance. Let's not jump to love. Like, whoa, babe, can you accept all your disgusting parts? Yeah, let's just start by accepting, because it's like everything that's pissing you off in someone else, it's a part of you that you think is really unacceptable. And it's such hard pills to swallow. And I know this because I've been doing this work for how long, and still I'm in this place where I just love to make my lover wrong. I'm like, no, but you are wrong, and that behavior is incorrect. And I am right. As long as I'm in that realm and I forget that I am the creator of all of this, and it's an experience of love, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to be in a space of cultivating, which I think is true love. I'm not saying true love in the romantic, like, oh, we're going to build a castle and everything's going to be amazing. No, it's like, can I be in a space of connection with a human being where I am absolutely true to who I am? I'm not acquiescing, and I'm not editing, and I'm not doing more than what I really want to, and I'm not making myself smaller, and I'm not, doing in order to be liked. It's like, imagine this experience. When last in your life did you have an experience where you were just loved for who you are, and it was not transactional? It was not like, yes, I love you, but if you cheat on me and if you do this, then I'm going to throw that love away. Or if you step out of this boundaries of who I've made you, then that love is gone. It's like, I think it's such a yearning all of us have, is, can I just be loved for me?
Do you think
Yeah.
that's a difficult conversation or idea to master when people are asking others to love them for exactly who they are when they themselves are so disconnected that they don't even know who they are?
I think it's almost like what I get from your question is like, we need to accept that we don't know who we are. Like all of us, we need to go like, there's been a lot of training to create this idea of who we are. And we are going onto a path because you first need to know that you don't know who you are in order to go on the path of saying, I want to really connect to who I am. So both need to kind of accept that, like, okay. It's what Ramdas says, in order to become free, the first step is you need to know that you are not free. Because if you're going to be like, I'm free, then you're not going to do any more work to become free. You're like, I've arrived, I'm enlightened. It's like,
I'm
tick,
enlightened.
enlightened, tick, and it's like, is it? Okay. Yeah, I don't know if that's true. So it's like the first step is you need to know that you are stuck, that there are parts of you that you haven't called back fully. And if you're not an enlightened being, you have parts that have not been called back fully. I know a lot of elders on this path, a lot of spiritual teachers, they are still doing the work. And they're not doing the work because they're broken humans that need to heal all the time. No, it's because they're delighting in the experience of expansion.
I was just about to say, like, I think what what always excites me, what I always say to my students when especially when they first like try their first yoga asana practice or whatever it is, and I say to them like, welcome to the rest of your time here on earth, because until the day that you are not here in this body, you will never be on your mat, and no pose will ever be the same, and you'll never be able to say, okay, ticked off Kundalini, now I can forever do that, because 3 days later you've done a trail run and you're so tight and you can't get into the posture or whatever the case might be. It's like there's no ticking off these things. Again, it's not like the linear path where we can go, okay, cool, if I complete step 1, check, 2, check, 3. Like that's not how like any of this really works. And that actually brings me to a question for you, which is where they often show the vibrational energy of emotions. And so they scale them from like at the bottom of the chain is like your shame, your guilt, your apathy, and then going up to I am like, you know, what is your thought on giving a scale to emotions and the lower vibration and the higher vibration? Because to me, that just gives people the idea of like, if I'm feeling these, it's bad. I'm at the bottom. It's like this psychological treatment of it going like, oh, you're at the bottom, dude. You want to be at the top. We all want to be at the top. And then you're not getting to the top. And I feel like that puts you more in like the shame and the guilt and all the things. So I'd love your perception on that.
Okay, such an amazing question, because I think this is one of the biggest illnesses of the spiritual path is this the new ego identity of I am enlightened and I am high vibrational, and cutting off and suppressing everything that is not that idea of enlightened when you aren't really yet there. It's a new form of self-abandonment. And when I talk about emotions, and this I got from NVC, it's like emotions are indicators of met and unmet needs. That's what they are. They are there to tell you what's happening, what's alive in your body. There's no such thing as good or bad. It is there to tell you that's, hey, you're alive and you're experiencing something in your body. If you didn't experience a bad emotion, it's like, I like this analogy of when you put your hand on a hot plate or like a pan or something, it needs to burn so that you can go, ow, remove from danger. If you didn't feel that ow, remove from you wouldn't take the action to remove yourself out of that moment. So anger is very necessary when your boundaries are overstepped. That doesn't mean you go and clap someone, because we don't have a lot of healthy examples of expression of difficult emotions. I actually think we have very little in this society. So we think anger is bad because anger equals violence. When anger is also, it's just showing you something. It's just telling you, hey, move something, change it. Hey, take an action. And I actually think most of our illness, and this is what Gabor Mate also writes, he says most cancer, breast cancer, comes from women suppressing anger. So they stay in such scenarios and environments that are deeply hurtful to them because they are not connected to the feeling, they're numb, so they don't realize, oh, I actually need to shift. And emotions are powerful. We know when an emotion comes, it's strong if you can really allow yourself to feel it. So, and sometimes you need that amount of energy to change something, to bring about change. It can't just be like, whoop, then you're not going to do it. You're not going to take the massive turn in your life if you don't feel that wave of energy moving through your body. And yeah, it's so funny that we've made certain emotions bad and certain good. What hatred, rage, what else is there? Jealousy, I don't know, like all these things are bad, but yet by denying them, you're going to cause more problems. And it's also, I always see this, the more you integrate those parts of you, the more you bring it back home and you're like, yes, sometimes I experience jealousy, sometimes I experience anger. They stop being the part of you that control you. Then you're just a person experiencing an emotion. You're like, oh, I'm angry. Why? I'm angry. Why? Because I need to change that. You're not like raging and like a crazy person. That only happens when you try not to be that thing. I find this hilarious. Everything we try not to be, we become. When I work with couples, and the one is always like, no, I'm not going to do this because, I really care about other people, the people pleasing thing. I don't want to be perceived as selfish. And they're curating everything they do around not being selfish. When I talk to the other person, they're like, that one is so selfish. It's like almost the only thing they can say about, and I can't help but burst out of laughter because I'm like, look at that. The thing you are so scared to be, you anyway being perceived as that.
Like, yeah.
So yeah, for me, the biggest work here, maybe it's just, everyone's got their thing that the message they need to bring is like, people, please befriend your emotions. Befriend them, listen to them. They are messengers. The more you listen, the more you bring them in, the more on your path you can be. Clearly you will hear what to do, what not to do. But we're so confused. We don't know. Is this the right person to love? Is this the right job? Should I do this? We don't know because we don't feel.
Yeah. Because we're not actually in it. You're thinking about doing it, but you're not actually doing it. And I wanted to ask your perspective because I feel like misunderstood emotions within people, coupled with scenarios that you may find yourself in that is happening in your reality, in the world around you, because we're perceiving it like you said, I am me, and like this is life, and they're actually not connected. Like these things are happening to me. Like my tire burst, my back is sore, my partner is an asshole, my whatever. So I'd love for you to speak to, there's obviously a big difference between someone actually being a victim of something, but victim mentality, which is totally different. And I'd love for you to, if there's any insights you have around that, or where do you start by maybe going like, hey, like this isn't happening to me, I am part of this process.
I think the easiest way, or the best way to start working with that, and I think this is where my path with this started, is to understand triggers, because that really puts you on this notion that, oh, my disproportionate response is coming from something unfinished in me. And this
Yeah.
person saying this thing was just evoking that old memory, and I'm responding to the past and not to the now.
Yeah.
And this really put me onto something, because I was going in life thinking all my actions were like reasonable and warranted, and like, yes, that is a normal reaction. And I was really thinking like I'm the victim of everyone's, we didn't look like a victim, because I looked like a bossy girl, but I was still believing that I was right and everyone else was wrong, until I started noticing, hold on, why am I so angry? Like, at this thing, we always use this. They use this example in NVC, which I love. It's so simple, and I'd love to take you through it, because it just gives you an experience of that. It's all you, baby.
Let's go.
It's like, so they take this story where they're like, okay, feel into your body, just empty and feel how your body feels. I'm going to tell you a story, and you must be aware of what's happening inside of you. It's like, okay, so you're having a dinner party, and your friends are going to come over at 7, right? And you're so excited. You just got a lot of money, so you've splurging on the ingredients you're buying, and you've even practiced this recipe, and you just have this feeling you want to invite community over, and it's really important to you. And you go to the shop and you cook up a storm, and it's smelling beautifully, and your timing is, you've set the table, and wow, you're just so excited. And 7 o'clock is coming close, and no one's there yet, but it's okay, because there's still like 5 minutes left. And 7 o'clock comes and no one's there, and you're like, okay, don't worry, they'll be there like in 15 minutes time. And no, you check your phone, no one's messaged you. And it's 7:15 and no one's messaged you, and the food's cold, and it's 7:30 and still no one's
This
there.
like gives me anxiety listening.
Exactly. Okay. You see, so what's happening inside you there, right? You notice that. And they finally get there at 8, they stroll in without any excuse, and they're like, just like, oh, hi, there's dinner ready. Things are happening inside of you right now, right? You're like angry, you're anxious, something doesn't feel good. Because why? They did this to you. They late, right? That's your reason there. They made you feel this anxious. Okay. So clear that story. And we're going to do the story again. So again, you're having a dinner party. Your friends are coming over 7 o'clock, but you are just having the craziest day. Your dog is sick. You have to take it to the vet at 6 o'clock, and you just get back home, and oh my God, you don't have mushrooms and your dish, and it's 6:15, and you run over the street to your neighbor, and you get home just in time, like 7:15. You haven't even fucking started cooking, and the people are coming at 7, and you cook and you see it's 7 o'clock. Oh my, thank goodness no one is here yet. And you can carry on, and you finally finish anything at 7:15. You check your phone, no one's messaged, no one's there. And you're like, oh my God, what a relief. I can have a shower, like actually before the people come. And you take a shower, and you relax, because no one's bothering you or messaging you. And you relax, and you come downstairs, and you have time to set the table, and it's 8 o'clock, and the people arrive, and it's just actually perfect timing.
I feel like I've lived both those scenarios.
People did the same thing in both stories. The people came at 8 o'clock. In story 1, you're like, fuck those people. They caused me anxiety, In story 2, you're like, thank goodness, divine reality for making this thing happen. But what changed? You changed. What happened inside of you changed. What you experienced changed. It wasn't the world that did that to you, that planted that anxiety seed in you. No, you had that because of your reality. And this is such a key. Before you don't understand this, I mean, this is radical to say, but I feel like before you understand that life is flowing through you and not to you, you actually won't be able to heal or change much in your life. Because why would you? You're just a victim of whatever's going to happen. What's the point then?
So I want to let that be the segue that guides me onto the question of this podcast, basically, is what does living an aligned life look like for you or mean to you to be in alignment?
Wow.
I know you use the word harmony quite often, which I love because that's a word that I prefer to use more than balance. I think like this whole like bring yourself back into balance or life should be balanced is like quite an interesting concept, whereas you don't really want, if you had to choose, do I want to feel like a balanced human or do I want to feel harmony? Like, ultimately I think that's what we seek. And so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on alignment and living a life that is deeply aligned.
To me, to live a life that is aligned and in harmony is to, if I'm no separate than anything else outside of me, it means acceptance of all that is me. So the more I accept, the more I have a relationship to all my parts, the more the world outside of me will reflect that back to me. So yes, living in alignment is first of all knowing that I have places where I'm stuck, doing the work to call those parts back, and then actually drinking from the nectar of wisdom, that comes every time I call a part back, and it propels me into the next motion of life. It's like, okay, now I know, now that I've called that part back, now I know what the next step to do is. So it's almost like this constant listening, open eyes, receiving wisdom, reflection, teaching, which is in relationship, in disharmony, whatever. Everything is everything in front of you is your next step to awakening and harmony. I mean, you can call awakening also harmony and alignment. It's like how much can you be one with all and not so separate? So if you want to be one with all, you are all, so accept all of you. Forget about the world out there. It's you, and that will reflect it back to you. So to summarize, for me, living in harmony is living in harmony with self.
And that requires, I guess, radical honesty and commitment to continuously show up.
Yes, a hunger, a devotion to take that movement, to risk losing the comfortable parts of you that you thought were you, but were just the vehicle to bring it to the next layer of you awakening, And it's so hard, I know, in this world where you've never tasted, what would you call it? Oneness, harmony, raw expression. It's like, for some people hearing this conversation with us, they think we're absolutely crazy and why are we doing this, and some people only taste this level of freedom when they take plant medicine or when they're in deep meditation. But I've also seen, I just came from a woman's retreat. This is a piece of inspiration, is another way of spreading that seed into the world, is like, when you are so totally in your freedom and truth, how much that inspires someone else. Because then they recognize something and they're like, that. It's like a remembering. Oh my God, yes, that freedom. I also have that inside of me. That's also, yeah. So I actually want to tell people, stop trying to help the world. Like, free yourself, and by that you will free fucking everyone around you. It's not, stop doing, like, do here, then then your surroundings will reflect that.
That's really beautiful. Thank you so much. Again, the time has just like flown, and I feel like I've got like this long list of like a whole bunch of things that I wanted us to talk about, like these specific topics, and the conversation just went in like the best directions possible. So I'm gonna hang on to this list because I think there's a few good things in here that that I would want to hear more from you. And then I wanted to, oh, I wonder if I can bring that up now, maybe. Okay, two more quick questions, and then we'll log out. But I found this another little quote from you where you wrote, "The mature, evolved, and liberated feminine." And when I read that, it just like it hit me so like deeply. And knowing that you've just come from a women's retreat, facilitating a women's retreat, and that you're going to facilitate another one now in a couple of days. And you and I had a laugh about like, oh, women's work. Like it's quite something. And I've had a big aversion to like women's work for like so long in my life. And I'd love you to maybe share a little bit. I think like red taint and women's circle really has that stigma of it's like a bunch of witches dancing naked around the fire. And I'm like, that's exactly what we do. And it's fucking amazing. But just like, except for the fact that women's work does not require you to dance naked around a fire. Maybe just an insight into maybe a woman who's listening to this podcast and goes like, wow, I feel called to do it, but I'm not sure, or I'm not brave enough.
This is such a topic for me. So
I know, I'm dropping this like
know,
bomb in the end.
such a topic for me, I mean, let's see if I can boil it down to the essence of having a space where you can unravel your being and find out for yourself what it means to be in the body of a woman. It's just, where do you get that opportunity, and where the teaching is not happening in a linear way. It's like, I'm going to tell you what it means to be a woman. No, it's done in a circular fashion where the holding is there for each to go inside and get their own medicine and unravel, and then through that everyone learning from each other is massive. It's like, and I know a lot of people are a little bit scared of women's work, or repelled by it because of the gender role, the gender terms, oh, it's a woman. What does that even mean? Like feminine or this. I don't wear silky dresses. So I don't want to come to these retreats. But like, I mean, the type of women's work that I'm interested in, again, is about celebrating the embodiment, your experience, your individual experience of what it means to have a uterus, what it means to have a pussy, what it means to have breasts, what it means to die every month, to like shed a layer of yourself and to learn and to come back, to go through all these seasons and cycles in your being, to tap into your intuition of the body, of the wisdom of your body, of that knowing that all, I mean, men and women, but I'm speaking from a woman's body because I'm in one, is that innate knowing that we have, not because someone taught it to us from a book, but just because we know. it's like to really advance that, and to come to a space where your nervous system can relax, where you're no longer competing in the masculine world, which is it's not men, it's not bad men, in a patriarchal world that was set up in a certain way. But your nervous system can come and relax, and you can really start to hone in the skill of what we were talking about, of listening and feeling and allowing, and getting examples from, you yourself said there's a 19-year-old and there's a 70-year-old, and each of those women bring their medicine, they bring their peace. That one is crying the whole time. Maybe I struggle to cry, so she's moving it for me and she's evoking something in me, and that one is raging and I can't rage, or this one has been struggling with her connection to her sexuality, and I didn't even think of that. I thought of it as a non-problem, but because that sister is voicing it, now I'm like, oh my goodness, actually, I also experience pain during penetration, or I also don't feel, I also dissociate. It's just this different way of learning that is not of this concept of mind, that is of body, that is of earth, that is, it comes from the bottom up. And fuck, how much genuine knowledge has been lost because we have been disconnected from that experience. I just spoke to a friend that dropped me, and I said to him, woman, we go into the underworld once a month when we're bleeding, and we see everything, everything is heightened. Your irritation, your anger, everything. It's showing you everywhere where you're out of alignment is in your face. And you go, and if you have space to look at it, you work it, and you start to make changes and unweave, and your community benefits from it. Because everywhere where you unweave a pattern, the person that you were in it with has to unweave also. That's how it works. So that knowledge from the underworld, I'm calling it not like the scary underworld, but the depth of the mystery, the things that are not in the obvious, that we come and bring is like the most potent medicine. And it's been lost. So women's work is also like, in a sense, reconnecting to the mystery, to the power of the mystery. And I don't want to sound too woo-woo, but I think it's because I'm a tantric. I speak like in the, it's like, how do you speak about God? You can only really write poetry and dance God, because it's no use in trying to explain it through science. So yeah, I have a deep love for women's work and seeing how women unravel when they come day one, and it's tight like this, and they start unraveling, and you start to see the face come out and the expression come out, and the body freeing and opening, and what that does to my body to be around that. Yeah. I hope that answers.
Yeah. Thank you again. There's like a million directions I'd like to go in with that. I think for me as well, it's when I am in my bleed, and then it's like, oh, but your hormones or this and that, and or you've got your PMS, or you whatever, like, oh, she must have her period because she's been in like such a bad mood and she's so snappy. And then like really taking time to see how I feel and observe my behavior when I am bleeding, when I'm not bleeding, and going like, but actually I feel like maybe when I'm bleeding, my bullshit tolerance again has lowered for that time. And whereas perhaps when I'm not bleeding and you've said something or done something, I've let it go. Not because I was in a good mood, but because I disassociated or stepped away or kept the peace or whatever. And then like when you're on your bleed and you're going through this amazing, miraculous experience, that's so the fucking realest and rawest thing that you can experience, I guess, almost like next to childbirth within your body. Like you are like, but hey, like what's real? Like what's real to me and what's like true to me. So I love that you said that. Again, like what also really brought this all together for me was this very clear messaging of you're not alone. Like as a woman on this earth, you are not alone. And you might feel alone. You might have been born into a family with a sister, but every woman on this planet is your sister. And there are so many, it's so beautiful to see how the women's circles and retreats and workshops and all these things are starting to blossom more and more. So yeah, whoever's listening to this, if you feel like this is something that you're really interested in, if it inspired you, if you're curious, if you think it's fucking weird, whatever your thought or perceptions are on this, feel free to reach out to Olivia or myself after this podcast. We're both like more than open and happy to chat and share. As Olivia said, she's got another retreat coming up, so you can. Is it mostly on your Instagram where they can contact you to find out about upcoming?
Instagram is good to find. My website's still my new website's still in the birthing, and yeah, I do these monthly yoni temples also, which I know is very scary for women, but I also like to play on the edge so for people to come. Yeah, so
amazing. Well, I'll put all Olivia's information, all the Aligned Living information is in the show notes for those of you who are listening or watching. I wanted to just say thank you so much for your time today. I really, okay, truth on the table, talking about truth on the table, everyone. I selfishly run this podcast because I get to meet the most amazing humans and it brings so much joy into my life. And after every podcast episode that I record, I need to take a hot minute to just sit down, and because I feel as well, you were attracted into my life for a reason, and I'm having this conversation with you right now and not someone else. And so where's the potency and the magic in that? Is just it's so abundant. So yeah, very, very grateful that I get to do this, and thank you so much for sharing your story and sharing your, like you say, your controversial opinions. I'm what's controversial? Everything's fucking controversial to someone. I love it. Please make that part bigger and let her out in the world, let her loose, give her free reign. Because you've got such beautiful gifts to share. And I really hope that even if this recording reaches one woman and it supports her, then I feel we've done our job. And that's really important to both of us in the work that we do. So thank you to everyone who's listening, and thanks, babes, for being here. We'll have to see you in person sometime soon. We'll have to make a plan. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Maybe just that, I think the world would be a better place when women relax into themselves and free themselves in their bodies. So that is my wish for all the women out there listening to this, is if you want to make the world a better place, is relax into being you and free yourself from the constraint that you think you need to be a somebody.
Mm-hmm. No. You already are somebody. Thanks, love. Thank you, everyone. That is us for today, episode 15. Yeah, if you enjoy this, subscribe, share, comment, do all the things so that these conversations can reach the world ultimately, and perhaps land in someone's heart who really, really needed to hear some of these words. Much appreciation for everyone, and we'll talk soon. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Aligned Living Podcast. We hope you found inspiration, insight, and a fresh perspective on your journey towards holistic well-being. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Remember, your feedback fuels our mission to bring you valuable content that aligns with your life. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, and feel free to reach out with your thoughts, questions, or suggestions for future episodes. We would love to hear from you. But until next time, take good care of yourself, embrace the present moment, and remember, you are your own healer. Thank you for being a part of our community. Goodbye for now.